Here's the button. Okay, 3, 2, 1, 57talk.com. Gary Cubetta, Scottsdale, Arizona. Part 3. Buddy, we've gotten a huge response to your programs. People are still very interested in the nature boy, Buddy Landell.
Well, I feel like Sally Fields, the Academy Award. They like me. They really, really like me.
Well, I have to tell you, of everyone we've had on so far, you have the best memory and some of the most vivid stories that I've heard since we started the programs. And I got an email from Randy Hales. Do you remember Randy Hales?
Oh, yeah, I love Randy. He's in Jonesboro, Arkansas. Owns a couple of Dairy Queens.
He emailed me, I think, on Friday night, and he said, why did you guys stop the interview on Friday? I uploaded it to the web Friday night. He says, I could have listened to that thing all night long. You guys should have gone for 4 or 5 hours. He loved it. He loved it, man. He called you Boudreaux? Budrow, okay.
Yeah, Budro. I don't know where that came about, but anyway, it stuck. Arn Anderson called me BL, and Flair called me Nate, and Budrow, and don't call me late for dinner.
So we're in 1985. You're working for Crockett. This is your big feature push of your career. You're the Nature Boy. Nature Boy Ric Flair's brought you in. And the Great American Bash, July 6th, 1985, Charlotte, North Carolina, Memorial Stadium, an outdoor show, 27,000 people. And guess what? You're on the card, and you go to a draw with Ron Bass.
Yeah.
You're still not main event yet.
Still not main event yet, but I'm cooking right along now. By this time, my problem that I had alluded to earlier had, it was starting to really grow and change my demeanor, my personality. And by this time, I'd started getting cocky and knowing I was good, or in my mind thinking that I was good, just getting really cocky. And I don't think I had started no-showing at that time, but right around there, it was I was hooked up with some really bad people around the country that...
Buddy, you mentioned before that most of the guys had issues with substances, but was it because the quantity of substance, or you just couldn't control the substances?
Well, now let me clarify that, because I don't want to say that a lot of guys had issues. I think that would be reaching a little bit, Gary.
Okay.
I think, there was a lot of stuff going around, and a lot of guys did a lot of stuff. The only difference is they would do a little work, save money, go home, take care of their family in a whole 9 yards. There was, I was on the other end of the spectrum. I had to do a lot, spend all of my money, and never go home. So, I would be the bad example of that. But most guys, as a rule of thumb, were great guys and never let it affect their work, and they went on and kept on, and some of them are still around today, but, they just never let it affect them. I just had kind of a warped personality, I guess. I had a very addictive personality. I was spontaneous. All of these things that, I guess my cycle, whatever, genetic makeup, caused me to, Guns N' Roses had a song, Mr. Brownstone, talking about heroin. Of course, I never did heroin. It says I used to do a little, but a little wouldn't do it, so a little got more and more. That pretty much summed me up. But yeah, I had to do a 20-minute Broadway with Ron Bass, and it was great. I was just talking about this the other day because I'm a big David Allen Coe fan, and David Allen Coe played intermission that night. Boy, he's a big old guy. He's like 6'4", 6'5", 280, big old boy. And but yeah, that was great. Now I had wrestled before in front of a lot of people over in Trinidad, Port of Spain. There was the Jean Pierre Complex back in '83. There were 25,000 people. So that wasn't a shocker to me really. It was just I could feel it starting to take off. My career.
Buddy, if I ask you something that you don't want to answer, just tell me. But I've always wondered, you didn't seem to use steroids.
Oh, well, I did. Heavy steroids.
You did?
I had tore my pec out, as I mentioned earlier. I had tore my pec out in a bench press contest over in '83 at Caribe Hill, Puerto Rico. And I had maintained somewhat of a shape, but I'd really never been to the gym past, 1983 full. So whatever I had was just going away. I was really heavy, big into steroids. If you look at pictures of me when I was, with dark hair in San Antonio, and even over in Puerto Rico a couple of weeks prior to tearing my pec out, I was real strong on the bench press too. I had a really strong bench press. For some reason, I was just really strong. I never could figure that out.
What type of side effects did you get from the steroids?
Well, you got the anger and you got to couple that with road rage and just all this stuff and the pressure put on you by promoters to be on time to have the best match and the pressure of going to the gym, getting to the town, missing your family, and all of this together. I mean, some guys it affected, some guys it didn't. I saw some guys that it really affect mentally, but now the damage didn't come till years later. Till I was at Vince in 1995 when I blew my knee out.
Okay, we're gonna get.
Well, I'm just telling you the damage. The damage come later when the doctor told me my tendons were wore out from steroids.
Wow, you didn't have like a real rip physique. Like I won't mention any names, but
you haven't seen I've got a picture of me that actually people laugh at because I think if you're going to have a picture out there and autograph them, why not let it be the best picture that you ever took? And I'll send you one of these pictures and you'll see what I'm saying. It's
okay.
It's a picture that not a lot of people have, but it was like 2 weeks before I tore my pec out. It's a really good picture, and I was pretty jacked up. Wasn't a Scott Steiner by no means, but dieting was never none of our things to do. I mean, you're on the road, you got to eat what you need to eat. So dieting was, these guys now, I don't know how they stay so ripped. Of course they don't do the road traveling that we did. They fly a lot and are home a lot. I'm sure, but we were in a car every day.
Now, 1985, you're in with Crockett. Superstar Billy Graham made his last major run. Do you remember working with Superstar or seeing him or talking to him in the dressing room?
Oh yeah, I love Wayne. He's a wonderful man, wonderful guy. Now he's just a wonderful mentor and just really kind and always ready to give advice, things of that nature. Help young guys out. Just a wonderful guy. But he was doing the karate gimmick. Remember the karate gimmick?
Oh yeah,
did?
yeah.
So he was doing that, and they would pair those guys off like Paul Jones, Superstar Billy Graham,
Conga.
Barbarian. They would pair them off with Boogie Woogie Man, Jimmy Valiant, and they would have those guys that were a little bit older.
Okay.
They would kind of have them working a program with each other. Just kind of a novelty on the card by that time. They would be somewhere, respectfully in the middle of the cards. As a novelty thing. So.
Did you know at the time that Billy was having trouble with his hips?
Yeah, he would talk about it. Yeah, and he would talk about, what damage that that the doctors had told him that steroid caused, him and his life, career, and he would, but, listen, I don't care who you are or what you've been through. You can't be a reformed anything and come and tell a guy that, shooting to his stars rising to the top and he's 20-something years old. He's just not going to listen. He'll be respectful and hear what you're saying, but he won't adapt that to memory, admit it to memory, live by that golden rule. That's just the nature of the beast.
Ole Anderson and Arn Anderson were teaming up at the time, and Crockett. Ole later said that he was getting a little bit burned out with the business. Did he speak of that at all?
No, Ole in my life was another guy that was kind of like a father figure to me, because Ole was booking in the early, like around 81, 82 when I was in Charlotte, if I remember correctly. He's like a father figure by now. By 1985, by the time that Ole really Ole was the really first person that reached out to help me in the middle of my problem, which I already know was a problem. Apparently he did, so he come and got me out of my hotel room one day in Baltimore and walked me around the city, just talking to me like a dad and saying, look, you're going to kill yourself. You're going to kill your career. It ain't worth it. You got too much to give, too much to live, your family. I mean, that was my time with Ole.
Nikita Koloff into the territory at the Great American Bash 85. He's already paired up with Ric Flair. Were you surprised to see Nikita get such a push so quickly?
No, I you know what, and this God is my eternal judge when I say this, I was never jealous of any guy in the business. I admired guys. I never envied anyone, and I never was jealous or work-wise intimidated by any ever. I mean, by that time, I was confident in my ability to wrestle. As a matter of fact, I think I had where Flair had a lack of self-confidence. I had an overabundance of confidence.
You mentioned earlier that Ric Flair had the lack of self-confidence self-confidence. Did you ever see that in the dressing room?
Never, and that's why it was so surprising for him to expose that on, about himself in his autobiography. I never, the guys always suspected that he did steroids. I've never seen Ric Flair take a drug. He drank like everybody, but I never knew him to do any drugs or anything like that. No one did.
When he came into the dressing room, was he low-key or was he, slapping everybody on the back? What was Rick like back then?
Well, Rick was the type of guy, which actually I learned a lot from Rick, because like I said, I tried to emulate. I worship. Rick was the kind of guy that when you saw him out, anywhere you saw him out at, he was dressed to the nines, jewelry, the Rolex, sunglasses, the hair, always immaculately dressed. And he, when you saw him out, no matter where he was at, he was the world champ. I mean, he represented the business excellently in my opinion. And what Rick would do and what I adapted was he would walk into the dressing room and he would stand in the dressing room door until everybody in that room focused on him. And then when that happened, he would go guy to guy, hug the neck, shake the hand, slap the back. But he commanded respect. And I loved that about him. Just his presence in a room there was like an aura around him that was just it was captivating.
So he'd come into the dressing room, be at the door,
right,
and just stand there until I'm sure he could capture people's attention until everyone just looked at him.
Right, basically, yeah.
And then what would he say?
Well, the nature, he didn't have to say anything. It was said in actions, not words. It was, hey, the nature's here,
Wow,
we're sold out. Let's rock and roll,
Dusty Rhodes, near the end of his full-time career, he was also booking, of course. What was your interactions with Dusty like?
Well, Dusty loved me. I think at that time, him and Flair kind of was a competition between two. Because Dusty let me say this, Dusty was a father figure to me also, and he really tried to help me, he really tried to help me with my problems. And actually, before he fired me that November, he actually brought me in his office. I remember Bill Watts telling me one time, he says, when you got $100,000 in the bank, he goes, your life will change and you can make your own decisions. You can basically do what you want to do. That was kind of his golden rule, $100,000. So by that time, I'd had that, and when Dusty didn't want to fire me, he brought me in the office, tried to reconcile with me, and I was so far gone then, believing in. I believed all the hype. I believed I was that good. I believed, and in the meantime, you've got guys in the back. Look, guys in wrestling aren't friends; they're acquaintances at best. And to say that you're friends with guys in the wrestling business, there's a lot of lessons you'll learn from that, because your phone don't ring after it's over with. Stay in touch with very few people. But by this time, you had the guys that were underneath me coming up and slapping me on the back saying, screw them. You don't need this nature boy. You can go up there to Vince, man. You don't need these guys here. And I was young. I was 23 years old. I didn't know that, they were setting me up for failure. But that's the nature of the beast, man. It's like these reality TV shows now, like these survivor shows where you go in there and you act like you're friends, but really you're plotting and planning and scheming and laying in wait to stab somebody in the back, and mentally screw them. And I let that happen to me a lot in my career.
Well, it's like a pyramid, and a pyramid at the top is a lot smaller than the pyramid at the bottom. And if you're working for that top spot, sometimes the only way they can take that top spot away from you is to push you out and let you fall down and start all over at the bottom, which it's just a natural thing, I would think.
Well, now that's a good analogy, and that's exactly the meaning of my good explanation of my meaning.
Starcade 85, Greensboro, North Carolina, Atlanta, Georgia.
Yeah. Hey, let me interrupt you. I apologize, but I want to go back real quick.
Yeah,
By this time, Dusty had a massive ego also, and him and Flair were competing a lot. There was a lot of personal stuff going on there. And Dusty, by this time, I think Flair and you could tell by some comments in Flair's book that, Flair said that, that him and I had tremendous matches. And, Flair's always put me over. He's never knocked me. One time Flair had a quote one time. Someone asked him who was the greatest wrestler in his opinion that was the greatest greatest worker, talker that never made it. And he said, hands down, Buddy Landell. And I mean, that's a great compliment. It breaks my heart to hear that, but to come from Rick, it means a lot, you know, and I was self-destructive. That was my fault. But anyway, I digress. There was situations between Dusty and Flair, and I think by this time, Flair, the territory was booming again. It wasn't like on its ass in 1984. And Flair, I think he really kind of wanted me out of there, but Dusty had kind of like fell in love with me and wanted to keep me there, and was, you know, he would use me to do little jabs, Flair, here and there on TV and things of that nature. So there was a lot of tension.
So, buddy, you opened the door with this as far as Flair and Rhodes, which is fine, but paint the picture for me. I've heard it all the time. They didn't get along. They this, they that. What did it look like to the boys just sitting back and watching? Did they fight in the locker room? Did they?
Oh, no, I've never heard them raise their voice. No, it was nothing like that. It was the underlying tension that you would have to read into this. It was competition between two competent athletes. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, it was just, and Flair happened to be the world champion, and Dusty happened to be the booker. So it was just the clash of the egos, and it was nothing. Never arguing, never fight. I was not privy to it. Okay, never. I never saw it in the dressing room, and on top of that, I never heard about it. Now, it was just what the guys perceived.
Now, in 1985, Flair was a clear heel, correct?
Right.
And he hadn't always been that, because in the Carolinas he had been a face, fan favorite, right, and then outside the territory he had been a heel. But he's feuding with Dusty Rhodes. He's with the Four Horsemen. Flair is a heel everywhere, right?
Right.
Now, here's the question. Was there ever talk that it was a bad idea to have a heel as champion when the WWE had Hogan, a face, as champion, psychology-wise?
No, and I got to tell you, the way that the guys in Crockett and the guys in the NWA and the guys in the South looked, we never really, I mean, there was never a whole lot of attention ever put on Vince and them up there. I mean, it was just something that really wasn't talked about. George Scott was booking up there at that time and doing a marvelous job. And like I said prior, Vince was Vince and Crockett wasn't. You know, Vince was Vince and nobody else was Vince. You know, Vince was taking off, and by this time doing the what do you call it, the WrestleManias.
Yeah.
And there was just never, it was just like a different league. I mean, guys really never talked about it that much. And what we were doing, in our minds, I'm just talking about the wrestlers, we wasn't competing, you know, Vince was another territory to go to when you left there.
Yeah, so you wanted to protect.
But I will say this, going to Vince McMahon was the ultimate goal of a wrestler. And it always was from about 1984 on to this day. It was just the ultimate goal. So, you know, Flair was a heel, but when they put me with JJ and doing the Nature Boy thing, I mean, it was like, you know, our goal was to out-heel the top heel. So apparently somebody thought we were doing the right thing, because whenever we worked with Flair, we were the heel and he was the babyface, even if he'd just worked the town the week before with Mag.
Okay, let's put WWF aside as far as the comparison, but let's talk about it like this. Flair, as the heel champion, had to lose virtually every night. I've heard Arn Anderson say that Flair only won 16 or 17 times in his career, and that is every time he won the championship. Other than that, he'd always lose by a DQ or a count-out. Is that what you saw in 85?
Yeah, that might be the case in point, but the bottom line is Flair was the NWA World Heavyweight Champion, getting 13% of the gross of the gate, 3% to the booking committee, and 10% went in Flair's back pocket. So Flair didn't give a tinker's damn if he lost every night. He knew he was going to retain the belt, and Flair was like me. He just didn't give a tinker's damn about doing a job. He'd do them every night, just like I did. He just got paid better.
Yeah, but that's not how I'm asking this. How I'm asking this is this. You guys, now, since you really weren't cognizant of the competition between you and WWE, fine, but you have a champion that has to lose every night versus WWE having a champion, Hogan, who was winning every night. Do you think that psychology-wise it was a negative to have a champion who's always on the losing end?
Well, you've got to look at it like this, the longevity of the company, okay? Apparently, whoever was causing Flair or booking Flair to lose every night, in the end, it was inevitable. Vince is still around and everybody else is not. So, given that comparison, I would have to go with the latter instead of the former.
Okay. So
Vince is,
Yeah, so we do kind of agree. See, I always thought that was a negative, that your champ's got to always be a loser.
Well, we didn't think that at the time, but we were following the old formula that that had been around for 50, 75 years of booking the champion. That was just the way that it had always been. Well, Vince came in with a different monster.
Yeah.
He came in with a different idea and a different theory. I mean, I'm sure that people approach Vince and say, look, Hogan's got to lose somebody. Vince held to it.
I remember
Vince held to his guns, and he's still in business today, and Crockett and the rest of them are gone.
Yeah, because I remember at the time I was a casual fan, and as a casual fan, you think in the back of your head, hey, Hogan always wins. It's not on the up and up, but Hogan's always wins. Flair always loses. Yeah, Flair's the better in-ring technician, but man, the champ's always losing. And you make the point, Vince is still around, Crockett isn't, and it didn't last much longer after 85, so case closed.
Yeah, exactly. I guess that's what it boils down to, ain't it?
Okay, now we're building up to Starrcade 85 in Greensboro, North Carolina. It was also in Atlanta, Georgia. What do you remember about the buildup? They had put you at JJ. I saw you on TBS at the time. You look great. You don't look like you're ready to implode.
Right.
What was the lead up to Starrcade 85?
Well, Starrcade 85, that would have been November around Thanksgiving. So that was, I had already worked. I had already done the summer with Flair. I had done the spring with Magnum and Garvin. I did the summer with Flair, and they were just wanting to go in a different direction. Now Flair had a lot of say so I'm not privy to actually what was going on behind the scenes as far as with Flair and my angles and things. I just know that Dusty was going to put the national heavyweight title on me, and I think he wanted a title on me because he thought and felt I deserved it, thought that I could carry it, and maybe wanted to still keep me hot, but with my problems and everything. By then, I'm no-showing towns, and I'm doing stupid stuff by this time. I'm doing crazy stuff, stupid, ignorant stuff.
Now, buddy, you're no-showing. Are you no-showing because you're incapable of making the date, or you just don't care to make the date?
I didn't give a damn. I tell you what, Crockett told me one time, he said, I would fire you, he goes, but I want to be able to figure you out. I would no-show a sold-out show in Richmond, Virginia, but I would rent a limousine and drive 400 miles one way to a high school show. Does that make any sense?
No.
There you go. That was me. So I was an enigma, man. I was very complex, and that was, I can throw all these words at you, but the bottom line is I was an idiot. So I think to encapsulate everything I'm trying to say, I think Dusty loved me, okay? Crockett tolerated me. The other guys probably hated my guts. But I think Dusty sincerely wanted to keep me around, put a title on me, put me on the card somewhere where I could still draw money and try to, put a safety net under me to where I could, spin out of this situation that I was in. Well, that didn't happen.
So November 28th, 1985, Starrcade, Greensboro. Now you're making some progress because you win the national title from Terry Taylor. Do you remember the match?
Oh, I remember the match very well. Number one, remember I told you there's only a couple of guys that's ever called matches while I was a heel. One was Jerry Lawler, one was Terry Taylor. Terry Taylor's a great tactician, and I let him call we had agreed that he would call the match that night. I always had great matches with him, and I remember I remember what I wore that night. I remember coming out, it was raining, was at a red light, and I got into a fist fight with a mark at the red light in the pouring rain. I remember it all. I broke my finger in the fight with the mark. I remember all of it, but I didn't look at it as gaining progress. I mean, Jesus, Flair and I broke Elvis Presley's attendance record at Dorton Arena, Raleigh, North Carolina, and then I'm third match from the top now, the national heavyweight champion. I looked at it as going backwards, not going forwards.
Really?
I'm not one of those, oh yeah, man. Look here, I'm not one of those guys that want to come to a territory and be a champion. I'd rather make the money. But some guys, and I won't mention any names, some guys would come in and work for 25% of what somebody else would work for if you would put the title on them. They just wanted a belt. I wasn't one of those animals.
So were you in North Carolina that night or Atlanta? Because it seems like it came from two different locations.
No, I was in Greensboro, North Carolina.
Starrcade.
I was was riding in the car with Ivan, Nikita, and Barry Darso.
How was the excitement level in the arena in Greensboro for Starrcade?
Well, I just remembered everybody was just thanking God that the switch over between the pay-per-views was pulled off, because it was like, not being done at that time if it had ever been done. I know that they were really worried about the people in Greensboro getting the next match from Atlanta, so it was just came off, and I remember everybody being elated that it was pulled off.
Did you watch all the other matches that night? Magnum TA and Tully Blanchard in the I Quit steel cage match. Do you remember that?
No, by that time I didn't.
Okay.
I was there was a song that Roy Clark sang one time. It's called Yesterday. There's a verse in there that says, every conversation was all about me. It was all about me by that time. I was just consumed by not by my star or celebrity or what angle. I was just concerned with, feeling good the next time by that.
Did J.J. Dillon try and take you aside? He's your manager.
Absolutely, yeah. JJ was like a dad. I had a lot of father figures. JJ loved me. We got along great. But see, I'm 47 years old now. Looking back, I'm thinking, what in the hell was going through JJ's mind? Here he is, they've hitched his star to me, and the sky could possibly be the limit, okay? And, he bless his heart, he hitched his star Dusty had hitched his star to pretty much a fallen star instead of a rising star. But, the thing escapes me, but there's a story that I want to tell about how I actually got fired, because that's very important, because I was the national heavy. You want me to tell that story now? Because we're right here. it happens right within a couple of weeks.
Okay, you tell the story now, then I'm going to go back and ask you about a few other things, but yeah, tell it now. Go ahead.
Well, Dusty still wants to push me. He's got the belt on me, and then there's the U.S. belt. Of course, Magnum and I used to get into arguments all the time, on TV about, which belt the more prestigious, the U.S. belt or the national belt. So that was pretty much a piss contest, and which was a half-ass shoot. And nonetheless, they had me booked. We were all in Bobby Eaton's apartment in Charlotte, and they had all of us plane tickets to fly out the next morning. Okay, now by this time, this is what I have always heard, that Flair's wife had a miscarriage or was going through a really difficult time with her health. And Dusty we were going to go to fly to TV that next morning, and Tully was going to switch babyface, and I was going to be a heel, and they were going to put Baby Doll with me and Tully with JJ. Somehow like that, but Baby Doll was going to be with me. And by this time, Baby Doll and I had already had, our deal going, our thing going on, for 6 months. Her and I, I won't go into that. Flair was going to take a short period of time off, and they were going to put the world belt on me and work Tully and Magnum together for a little bit, or I was going to work a program with Tully, and they were going to put the belt on me for a short time. And this was my second chance Dusty was given, because he had set me down and had a talk with me. He had put the national belt on me, and that's I was going to drop the national belt, and they were going to put the world belt, Flair's belt on me on TV. Starting the angle to do that going into 86, okay, is what it was going to be. But we were sitting around the room. I just bought a brand new Lincoln, and I didn't want to fly out the next day because we were all partying, and I had my party material there, and I didn't want to go home and go to bed. And so I talked Black Bart into getting into my Lincoln instead of flying out the next morning. I talked him into driving with me that night over to Atlanta. Well, we were driving to Atlanta that night from Charlotte. We'd got almost halfway there. I'm out of my party favors, and so I took a handful of Valiums. Well, I got in the room and passed out. Well, I had to be at TV early the next morning. Well, Black Bart tried to wake me up. I said, "Don't bother me. I'm not getting up." He goes, "Buddy, we got to go to TV. You're doing that angle today." And I said, "Brother, just go ahead and go to the TV. I'll catch a cab there in a few minutes, which I just rolled back over and went to sleep. Well, Crockett had called the hotel room, told me, get your butt out of bed and get down here now. And I told him, okay, fell asleep, went back to bed. Dusty had called me on the telephone and basically, was just really, really cussing by that time and pissed at me, which he had every right to be. And I hung up on him, went back to bed. Finally, about 11 o'clock that morning, I'd caught a cab and went in. And as soon as I walked through the back door, Dusty walked up to me and said, let me have the belt. You don't have a job here. I said, okay. I got $100,000 in the bank. I didn't give a damn. So I got in my car and drove back to Charlotte. And that was it.
Now, buddy, I've heard you tell this story before. And, I just can't believe that they were going to put the world championship on you. Now, did they tell you this directly or?
Dusty did.
But did he tell you after the fact so as to make you feel bad?
No, I knew it. Look, the only way I can corroborate the story is if you ask Dusty.
Yeah.
You will have to ask Dusty about his intentions with me and the world title. Nobody believes this story.
Well, when I first heard
nobody believes this story, and I'm not expecting anyone to believe this story other than the fact that every time that I was the main event in the Crockett territory, I drew money and we sold out. No matter who I worked with, we sold out, okay? And doing record business. And the drawing potential was there unquestionably. Now, I don't know if I was going to keep the belt short time like Tommy Rich or if I was going to have a run. I don't know. I would say the former instead of the latter. I think it would have been a short run. Nonetheless, people that do not believe this story need to call and get they need to pinpoint Dusty down and get him to tell the story.
Well, I'm not saying that I don't think that someone told you that. I just wonder, you said that you were in rough shape in 85.
Yeah.
You were no-showing.
Right.
I just wonder if they were serious about it or if they were just saying it to try and maybe jolt you into being more responsible with your life at the time.
Well, look, that could very well be the case. There was no written contract with the black and white ink saying you're going to be the world champion. All I know is what Dusty told me. Now, whether it was just a ruse to get me to come around, whether it was the truth or whatever it was, but I remember being around the booking, and that's exactly what Dusty had planned to book. He had always come up and told me what we were going to do, and this was nonetheless any different. So I had no just cause to believe he wasn't telling me the story. I mean, wasn't telling me the truth. Dusty never lied to me, ever.
Yeah.
So I would just, I'd get Dusty's phone number and just, do the same thing you're doing with me now, get him to talk and then say, hey, listen, about the thing with Landell in 85. So
I'm not saying that you weren't qualified if you were, clear-headed to be champion, because I think obviously.
Well, it is a crazy story given my shape of my my mental state at that time and my there's no doubt. I mean, you would want a guy nowadays. You'd send a guy's butt through rehab 10 times, to make sure that there wasn't going to be a problem because it's there's number one heavy shoes to fill. There's a lot of families that are dependent on you, and they would be dependent on me to be what I was supposed to be and not no show. So that's all they needed was going to war with Vince and having their own world champion no showing for Von Erich and Dallas. So I understand the trepidation, but I'm just saying that was what I understood to be the case.
Looking back at it, obviously you wish you had at least for a week cleaned up somewhat.
Well, I mean, I was at 47. I was I don't think about it because it's just a really, really sad story.
Yeah.
It's really sad.
Do you think? Okay, let's just play this out and then we'll drop it. Do you think, in retrospect, looking back, that if you had made it that day to this, do you think they would have put the title on you, or are you not so sure now?
If I was, I have no doubt that at some time they would have. I mean, I just have no doubt.
In the future, obviously that was going to come, but at that point in time, do you think they would have if you had shown up that day?
Yeah. Well, I really do, and I will give you a little bit of history later going into 1986 why I think that to be the case.
Okay.
Okay? I mean, you want me to do it now? I can just give it to you in about less 2 minutes.
Yeah, give it to me now because this is the end of the Crockett run.
I'll give it to you in 2 minutes.
Yeah.
1985 when I quit, I went back to Memphis. I went to Memphis to dry out. Okay? I stayed in Memphis 6 months. Dusty called me back. Bill Dundee came back with me at that time, and Dutch Landell, and I was at the Great American Bash the following year in 1986, only to make an appearance. That's all, okay? But what had happened is that I got popped by the IRS in 1986. From 1984, Crockett paid the bill, so instead of me making a couple of $1,000s a week, I was only making like $400 a week. I got pissed off. I quit, went to Watts when the Hellwig and Sting came there and were partners, okay, and Eddie Gilbert. Now, by this time, I'm making $200,000 a year. Eddie Gilbert, Sting, Rick Steiner, all those guys were on a $50,000 contract. Watts put me on a $200,000 contract. You can call him an ass. So what had happened was I had went back to Crockett, and then when I'd left there, that's when they brought Sting in. When I didn't work out, as I was leaving, they were bringing Sting in, and Sting became the world champion. Now, I'm not comparing myself to Sting or anything. What I think is, I think they were looking for somebody that could fit that role. And I think that I could have fitted that role because Sting went on to become the world heavyweight champion. And I'm just saying that workability, I don't think anyone can argue that my workability could have been the world champ material for whatever time period, okay? But I personally think it was going to happen, for a short time, for a long time, I don't know. No doubt in my mind, I mean, because this is me talking and this is pride talking, I think that if I had never, if I hadn't showed, if I would have been just the normal guy with great talent, I have no doubt in my mind that Dusty would have put the world title on.
Yeah, I don't doubt that either.
I have no doubt in my mind, no doubt whatsoever.
I mean, the Nature Boy versus the Nature Boy feud, if you guys were both guaranteed to show up, which Flair was, you weren't, that well,
I never no-showed a Flair. I never no-showed a Flair show.
Yeah. Well, okay.
But I'm ignorant. I mean, I'm stupid, but I ain't ignorant,
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, let me ask you about a few more guys in Crockett, and then we'll take it over into Memphis. Billy Jack Haynes was in Crockett when you were there. Billy's had just a crazy life, maybe a lot wilder than yours, I think. What was he like back then?
Whenever I want to feel good about myself, I'll read a Billy Jack Haynes autobiography. I loved the guy, man. He was always tremendous to me. He was always very kind and he was like a big brother. Very, very protective. If Billy Jack liked him, Billy Jack was a double tough guy, man. I mean, if Billy liked you, he wouldn't allow no ribs on you. You were like his buddy, and you felt very well protected out in public and in the dressing room. And Billy was just a wonderful guy, great worker, very believable, and just an all-around great person.
What kind of potential do you think he had at that point? Well, obvious. It's kind of an obvious answer, right? This guy could have been huge business.
Yeah. And see, I really didn't keep up with Billy that well. So, I mean, I was, of course, I'm consumed by this time with all, with everything concerning me. So I really wasn't keeping up too much with what other guys, were doing, their angles, things of that nature. I mean, I couldn't even tell you who worked with who, really.
Okay, fair enough. In 1985, Crockett, private jets or no jets yet?
Oh, yeah, that was the downfall of the whole company. Crockett had bought a 14-seat Gulfstream, twin prop propellers, and flying us around, and that was okay. But then, he went out and somebody talked him into buying a $3 million Falcon jet. And at this time, Crockett had bought Kansas City from Bob Geigel, or wherever it was Bob Geigel owned. And so they put Bill Dundee, who was my manager / player, or whatever you call it. They put him in charge of doing the book out where Central States used to be. So guess what? That means that I had to go out there to that piss hole too. I just didn't never like that territory.
This is your second run with Crockett when you came back in with Dundee. Okay, did they have the jets in '85?
Yeah, they had the jet in '85. I think it was latter '85. Yeah, jet, maybe the summer of '85.
In '85,
it might have been. You know what? No, the jet came in '86. I think the Gulfstream I know came. The 14-seat Gulfstream came in '85, but the the Falcon jet came in '86.
'85, yeah. Crockett. They're making huge money, right?
Yeah, somebody was. Somebody was.
Were the guys complaining?
I mean, I would work with Flair and it'd be a sold-out show, and, I mean, he would make maybe $30,000. I would make $3,000. So, I mean, somebody was making.
Did Crockett tend to take care of just the few at the top? That's what I've always heard is the Road Warriors.
Yeah, that's, I mean, I was appalled when I heard what Ricky Morton and Robert Gibson, the Rock and Roll Express, made. I mean, you know, I made a lot more money than they did, and I just thought they would have, you know, made more money than me. I don't know. Crockett had a trouble with that last zero going on a paycheck. I don't know what the hell his deal is, but he's selling ice cream in Dallas now, so everything comes around, don't it?
Well, there's a lot of. I've heard people say he's a multimillionaire set for life, and I've heard people say that he's a car salesman. I don't know what the answer is, buddy. I can't tell you. Nobody can reach him. He's very difficult to get a hold of, which makes me wonder even more.
I probably would be too.
Now, let me ask you this: you wrestled Flair in
karma's a bitch, man.
Okay. I hear you. I hear you. Believe me, you're the guy putting up his life every night in that ring. Now, you're wrestling Flair in 1985. You're going to 1 hour draws, right?
Yeah.
Flair.
You mean with Flair?
Yeah.
No, I would say Flair and I did several hour draws, but but most of the times I put Flair over. It was about 50-50. Now, I'll tell you what Dusty did one time, and there is a very, very, very short clip of this, and I don't know if you've ever seen it or not, but it was Greenville, South Carolina, and so it was funny because Dusty came up and gave me the finish that night, and I had a girlfriend there, and I told her, I said, listen, there's only one picture, there's two pictures that I want you to take tonight. I said, I want you to take a picture when I've got Flair in the figure 4, and the next picture when the referee, Tommy Young, hands me that World Heavyweight Champion, and then they announce me, that I just beat Flair for the world title, right? So the finish was that night that, I put Flair in the figure 4, he's trying to get out. JJ somehow comes in and, pops Flair with the gimmick. He goes down. I cover Flair, and Tommy Young goes 1, 2, 3. They come over and raise my hand and hand me the World Heavyweight title, and I raise it up over my head, and I've still got the picture to this day. Flair and I both are juiced and got the blood flowing, but I've got the picture of the World Heavyweight title up over my head, and they say, ladies and gentlemen, your new NWA World Heavyweight Champion, Nature Boy Buddy Landell. I mean, brother, that just gives me cold chills to remember hearing that right now. And then, of course, Dusty came out and stooged it off, and they reversed the decision. But anyway, that was the only time we did anything like that.
Did Flair take?
I still got the picture of the belt over my head they handed me.
Well, keep it because it's
Yeah.
You won't be finding another one out there.
Yeah, you ain't kidding.
Here's the question, buddy. 1985. You're wrestling Flair. Does he take hard bumps during the course of each and every match?
Absolutely, man. Flair was a machine. Flair, you couldn't blow him up. I mean, the big thing was who was going to run out of gas first, and I was in great shape. Flair was in tremendous shape, and that's why we could go an hour.
Okay, so here...
Let me say this. Most guys could have went an hour. It was nothing special on my part or Flair's part. All the guys back then were in tremendous shape. I mean, you could take Nikita, you could take Magnum, especially Tully, Arn, all those guys could do hours with no problem. It seems like it was very hard to do, but it was not uncommon for any of us to do an hour Broadway. Ronnie Garvin, any of it,
So
but Flair worked his butt off. He gave me his body, and he flew all over the place for me. And look, my problem wasn't a lack of Flair trying to help and trying to get this thing going.
Yeah, and
Flair did everything humanly possible to help me in these and I never talked to me about drugs or anything like that. That wouldn't he never did anything like that. But as far as in the ring, he never slighted me one time.
Yeah, but that's not where I'm going with it, buddy. I know that Flair took bumps every night. What I'm going to ask you, and this is jumping a little bit ahead of time, but Flair is still able to wrestle today. Now, you were in the ring with him in 1985. He's bumping like crazy. Do you ever look at him and say, how is this possible?
Well, I'll tell you how it's possible. It's possible that he's 60 years old, divorced, lost everything he had, and he's got to pay $22,000 a month in alimony. That's how he takes them damn bumps. That's the motivation. They put your butt in jail for not paying alimony. So that's Flair's motivation. He used to be working hard to buy nice things and Rolexes and Rolls Royces and cars and all these things like this, feeding your family. Now his motivation is, to pay alimony. So it's no surprise to me that he's 60 years years old and having to do this now. I'm sure he thanks God every night he's got the opportunity to have a job to do it.
Yeah, I just wonder how how the human body, and in this case Ric Flair's, can take that kind of punishment.
Well, that's how guys die early, Gary. That's how guys pass away early, man. They just, your body is just something God give us to, and it's only good for, a period of time on this earth. And Flair's 60 years old. I mean, you do the math. It's not superhuman stuff, brother. It's just intestinal fortitude where he's at right now in his life. I mean, he's having to really dig down deep to do what he does. If he had his rathers, it's not pride that's got him out there doing that. He's got to pay. He's got bills he's got to pay, and that's what he's doing. But it's not pride. I mean, I'm sure if he had his rathers, he'd still be married to Beth and living in the $2.5 million home and, having, $5 or $6 million in the bank and not caring if tomorrow ever comes. But the bottom line is he's got 2 ex-wives, 2 alimonies, 60 years old, and got to work. So
wrestling's not conducive to being married, is it?
That's a tough one. That's a really tough one. No, it's not. If you're predisposed of my lifestyle, it's not conducive of a good marriage. If you're, there's several guys that have been married forever. Paul Orndorff's been married to his wife forever, and they got a wonderful relationship. That's just tough. I don't know how to really respond to that. That's tough.
I always wonder, what type of office did Crockett have in the Carolinas? Was it out of his house, or did they have an official office, or was it at the Greensboro Coliseum?
Now, he had an office over off Briarwood, if I remember correctly, Briarwood. It was a nice office. He had front office work people. He had his own personal office. There was a studio in it, and it was just right off Woodland Avenue there in Charlotte.
How would you compare Jim Crockett to Bill Watts?
Well, Crockett's daddy was a genius, okay? He was the driving force behind that promotion. Crockett was just a rich promoter, inherited that, and him and his brothers, and they would just get excellent, or what they thought was excellent bookers in there, or the best booker that they could find to work territory, and just, you had guys that lived in Charlotte that he could always pin on. He had flair. I mean, he had flair, so, I mean, that's what he had, and he knew it. Flair loved him. He always took care of Flair, and went out together and partied together and all that stuff, so he had the world champ, so he had the leg up there. And, and everybody's always wanting to come into Charlotte because of big territory. I would say there's no comparison if you're, talking the mental capability of booking a territory and keeping it alive and all of that. There's no comparison, Crockett. I mean, it'd be like me playing Tiger Woods and golf. Bill Watts was superior in probably every aspect.
What was it like being on TBS at the time? I was checking out some YouTube clips, and you were there, and it's being broadcast cablecast all over the country. With your mental state at the time, did that seem important to you, or you didn't care?
Oh, that was a tough one, because like Memphis now, you remember in my earlier conversation with you, Memphis, those were taped on Saturday morning. That was that was after, Friday night. So, there again, here I am out Friday night, watching the sun come up. So, Saturdays were always tough, but we knew we were going nationwide. I always thought it kind of funny that, here we got a nationwide TV being syndicated all over the world, and here we got 15 frickin' people in the audience, I'm thinking, it looks low budget, but we're, it's main event.
Crockett at the time, all the matches on TV were squash matches. That's what I remember most about when Crockett took over that time slot. Yeah. Just 2 hours of squash match. Didn't make any sense to me. Did the guys wonder about it, or nobody cared, or?
Well, basically everybody just did what they were told.
Yeah.
That's all. I mean, you just did what you were told. I mean, look, there was a formula that had been there from Georgia Championship Wrestling, from I just forgot the guy's name, the old Barnett, for Jim Barnett when he was the owner booker, and Ole and all of those guys. I mean, it was just a formula. Look, Vince is the one that had the vision, to make everybody star and to do the spectacular stuff. These guys just didn't have that vision. That's why Vince's still around, and in the end superior, and in the land of the blind, the one-eyed man king. So that's why Vince's still here. The other guys, I think personally, just didn't have a vision.
You go to Memphis, you said to dry out,
basically,
and you go to work once again for Jerry Jarrett.
Right.
A lot of YouTube clips, the Bill and Buddy show.
Yeah, people talk about that a lot.
I mean, you from the outside looking in, you still look like you have it.
No, I'm over the top by this time. I mean, I'm pretty much totally gone. As a matter of fact, I was with a guy that got busted for 33 kilos of cocaine. 33 kilos. So I'm pretty much gone by this time. I'm with all the riffraff and the after hours clubs in Memphis, and I was horrible, in horrible shape. My wife had just had her first baby daughter, and I mean, I'm beyond repair by this. It was really, really dark days. Really sad.
Buddy, did you know you were doing permanent damage to yourself physically, or was it just permanent damage relationships-wise?
Today I'm destroying my body. I'm spiritually bankrupt. I'm not going to church. Everything that I was brought up to do, I turned my back on. God kept sending me, people to try to help me out. Dundee tried to help me. Jerry Jarrett tried to help me. And Lawler we never had the conversation with Lawler that I can remember. But I mean, everybody was always kind. But the problem was that we're selling out everywhere. As a matter of fact, later that year, I mean, before I'd left to go back to Crockett, we sold the Memphis Coliseum out 3 weeks in a row, and it was to this day, it was the last day that Coliseum's been sold out. Never was sold out again by Flair, Hogan, nobody. Nobody ever sold that out again past 1986. And that was the problem, I hadn't hit rock bottom because we're still selling out.
Buddy, I've heard people say that it's not so much getting off the substances that's the problem, it's the withdrawal. It would be easy for people to get off the substances if the withdrawal wasn't so difficult. Was it like that for you?
No, I never had withdrawals. That's funny. I never ever had withdrawals off never. No, and that was the weird part about it. And I hated doing it. I don't understand to this day why I ever did it, because I despised it. I hated it. I hated everything it stood for. It was that one quick rush when you first did it, and then you were like hooked with everything that you had in your pocket or whatever amount you had on you. You were hooked and captive prisoner to that until it was over with. In the end, Gary, I really didn't give two hecks about the wrestling business or anything. It's, looking back, it's the other lives that I destroyed. Look at what I did to J.J. Dillon. Look at every promoter I worked for, all the guys that I let down. My career, my marriage, my
fans,
my kids.
The fans, buddy. The fans loved you.
Well, yeah, and the fans also, and it was just, it's, what? I'm alive by the grace of God to talk about this where other guys have passed away, and it's just a flat out sad story. It's just a sad story of a guy that loved everybody and was a lovable guy and had a huge heart and all the talent, God-given talent in the world, and it just was so self-destructive that nobody could reach it. Nobody could, and it's just a really, really sad story.
Buddy, this is where I'm a little bit hazy with you. I don't understand or know how many years after this point did you still battle the addiction from 86?
86. Oh, a good another 10 years. Yeah. It's yeah.
Was wrestling at that time just a way to make a buck? I mean, as you've spoken to us about it up until now, you did have a passion for the business, people in the business, and the working your position. Did you lose that at this point?
Yeah, by this time I was more or less just I just let people pimp me out to make money off of my name. This was the end of '86, and this was the middle of '86, and then after this I go back to Crockett, quit Crockett, go back to Watts in '86. All of this happened in 1986, and then Terry Gordy and I we were in a horrible car accident, and from there I just went home, and then in '87, right before my second daughter was born, is when I really got it together a little bit and dried out. But by this time that I'd gained so much freaking weight, I was 280, where I was 220 working with Flair, and I went to Japan. My daughter was born, and then I had stopped doing some drugs, and to this day have never done them again. And I don't want to really get into what it was, but
yeah.
I just made a promise to God when my second daughter was born that I wasn't going to do this one specific thing anymore. And to this day that I have. But by the time that I had cleaned myself up, I had gained so much weight. I didn't look like myself. I had lost the drive to work out. I had lost the will to, the incentive to do anything. But by this time in 1987, the independent circuit was booming. So here I go again. I'm making more money on the independent scene with Wahoo, Jimmy Garvin, Ricky Morton, Robert Gibson, all those guys from 87 to about 89, that 2-year period. I mean, we were making more money than we were territories, just working for people around the country. So
you're able to get off one particular substance, which we won't mention, right. But you still have issues, right?
Yeah, I've still got issues, because what I stopped doing, everybody else was still doing, just because of my problems, the other guys didn't seem like you ride in the car with guys and, you slip and fall and do it again, and it's just there. And then when you do that, you're on the the monkey's on your back again, and there you go again.
I remember you had a run in Continental. Was that with the new owner?
Well, that was Ron Fuller.
Okay.
Ron was really good to me. He really liked me a lot, and he came in, put me on a really good guarantee, and I was doing pretty good at that time. I had lost my weight by then. I had dropped back down in weight and a little bit, and he had put the title on me. And of course, Knoxville's my hometown, and we were selling the Coliseum out, doing really good with Kevin Sullivan, me, Wendell Cooley, and all of us. Jerry Stubbs, Dirty White Boy, Ron and Robert Fuller, Jimmy Golden, had the USA TV, and in that same period of time, the Continental TV was really hot in Alabama and all through there. So, I never really hit rock bottom because there was always some place to go work and somebody would always book me, but I never really got it back. I guess the next 2 times I really almost got it back was, WCW in 1990 and then Smoky Mountain in 95. So.
How close did you come to getting it back? Was your body starting to break down from all the...
Well, no, in 1990, I had got cleaned up to come back into WCW. I'd went down to Jacksonville, Florida, where my wife's from, and we were down there, and I'd got the tan back, and I'd dropped all my weight. I was back down to 225, 230, and Ole had brought me in and put me on a good guarantee, and so there I go. I'm doing the thing and back on the thing, okay? Doing good, working every night, doing the right thing, and then Dusty comes in right at the end of 94, and he pulls me to the side and said, "Listen, you look good. We're going to do this thing again, okay?" Then they have the gauntlet match with me and Flair on TV. You remember that in 1990?
Yes.
Okay, they have that, and that was kind of like a precursor to what we were going to do. Dusty just wanted to see if Flair and I would click again. Of course, we did, like duck and water, and I'd gotten to an altercation at a hotel with this girl and blew snot on her, of all damn things to do, but it was tried to hit me with her high-heel shoe. Blew snot on her, and Dusty, I've still got the letter to this day. It said, "You're suspended from WCW without further compensation until further notice." And so I've still got that letter to this day, and I just, from there, I just went to Tri-State, which was the precursor of ECW for Joel Goodhart. Was doing the thing with Nature Boy Buddy Rogers up there, and then he died.
Now tell me, let's stop right there, because a couple people had emailed me. They wanted to know about that. Buddy Rogers was very old by that time. How were you guys going to do you were going to do a match, right?
Well, actually what happened was my wife had went with me that night. One of the few, very, very, very few times that she had ever went with me, and we were just, trying to, work through everything and reconcile, and it was kind of like a honeymoon we never had, so we had took our time, and people from church were watching the kids, and we had went up to, New Jersey to work, and Steve Williams was there, Terry Gordy, a few other guys were there, and I remember seeing Buddy Rogers over in the corner, and my wife commented, he says, "My God, he had like a 34-inch waist, his arms were like 17 and a half, he had a white T-shirt on, rolled with the sleeves rolled up, his hair slicked back, and had a tan that any man would envy, and he's 72 years old, looked like he was 40, okay?" And so we did the deal where we went to the ring, and it was his hometown, so I'm thinking it was Camden, New Jersey, but he had went to the ring and was making a speech. I went to the ring and did the deal. I've actually got it on tape. My wife videoed that night, and I said, "Hey, buddy, you were great back in your day, but now it ain't your day no more, and so you can be excused." And I kind of like brushed him off. Well, when I did, he spun me around and hit me in the jaw and was, making a little comeback on me, and I took a powder which set up the match between the two Nature Boys. Had a $40,000 advance, Joel Goodhart did, and Buddy drops dead in the grocery store down in Fort Lauderdale.
Wow.
Nobody out there listening to me would want my luck in life, I'm telling you.
Yeah.
So,
did he look like, do you think he was natural at that point, 72 years old, and he looked that good?
Yeah, he was just one of those old-timers like Thez that worked out every day, man. That's what they did. That's all they ever did in their life, was look good. Buddy Rogers was a multi-millionaire when he died. He's probably worth $10 million. Lived in Lauderdale by the sea, saved money.
Are you sure about this?
Huh?
Are you sure? That's not what I've heard, but anyway.
Well, I mean, I've got it from pretty reliable sources.
I'll tell you what I found, buddy, is a lot of people in wrestling think that the other guy is a multimillionaire, and a lot of times it's not necessarily the case. But I don't know. Maybe in that case it was. I don't know.
Well, the word that I got from all the old timers is, especially the guys that used to ride with. But now listen, Buddy was making big money back in the, you take what's the old guy that trained Thez? What's his name? The headlock guy.
Now you're before my time. I don't know.
Well,
Strangler Lewis?
Yeah, Strangler Lewis. Strangler Lewis made $2 million back in the 20s. Okay, because the NWA champ got 10% of the gate. So Buddy Rogers was nonetheless, he got 10%. And I always heard from all the guys, from Johnny Valentine on down, from Johnny Weaver, Flair, everybody said Buddy Rogers has got the first dime he ever made.
Okay. Too bad he passed away. First of all, because of your match, and he could have enjoyed that money. 72 he was, though. What type of match do you think it would have been? Did you guys talk about it at all?
I think I would have had to have custom made the match because he was 72 years old. So I would have just, I would have did him the same way I did, working with a Junkyard Dog or anybody. I would have did his kind of match to make him look good, but so the end would justify the means, to make it come back or whatever. But Buddy actually, and a lot of people probably won't believe this either, and I care less, but Buddy Rogers really, really liked me, took me out one night, and we just went to these people's house for dinner, and we rode around and talked, and he really wanted to try to take me to Vince and manage, because remember earlier in our conversation, I told you that he had said that it was ironic. There's been 3 Nature Boys, and we all looked alike, basically, and we all worked alike. So,
did he have an inside track with Vince at the time? Because I know he had one in the early '80s.
I mean, Fred, it's a Nature Boy, Buddy Rogers, man. I mean, I'm sure he did.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I'm sure he did.
But Buddy, in part 2, you told me, and I wrote it down. I just found it here to have you tell me the story about the Invisible Man. You had some type of match in '86 with. Do you remember this?
Yeah, I remember it very well.
Can you tell us that now?
Yeah, for several guys that tell this story. I was out there, and I was about 3 sheets in the wind. Bill Dundee had got me drinking scotch. Well, I'd never drank scotch in my life, right? So liquor does me one of 2 ways. Either I'm going to want to love on you, or I'm going to want to fight you. One where there's no in between. And scotch just amplified that, persona in me. Okay, and so there was actually a store. Well, I probably should tell that story, but anyway, went out one night. Whoever I was supposed to work with didn't show up. So I went out to the ring, and I'm about 3 sheets to the wind, and I just grabbed the microphone and said, "Hey, ladies and gentlemen, in this corner, you got 230 pounds, Nature Boy Buddy Landell. In this corner, you've got weighing 0, the Invisible Man." So I told the guy to ring the bell, went out and rung the bell, and I was locking up just with air, man. I would arm drag myself, shoot myself off, hip toss myself, grab an arm bar with the air and jerk myself down by the hair. I threw myself over the top rope. It was hilarious.
Well, wait a minute. This is at an actual arena?
Yeah, it was at a show.
And people are in attendance?
Yeah, it was sold out. It was Evansville, Indiana.
And what are they saying to this? I mean, I wouldn't know what to make of this.
Everybody's laughing their butt off. It was basically like I was a stand-up comedian that night for about 10 minutes.
Are the promoters upset you're giving away the business?
Yeah, they didn't. Nobody ever said nothing to me. Nobody ever said anything. I know it sounds weird, but
it does sound weird.
That actually happened. I mean, Randy Hales knows about it. Everybody in that territory knows about it. Dundee, Lawler, all of them. Yeah, they all knew about it.
Buddy, you want to do a part 4?
Absolutely.
Okay, we're going to do a part 4, but we're gonna pause here.
Okay.
And that's going to be it. I really appreciate it. Your stories are fantastic. I in the background here, I just wish things had worked out differently for you, because I remember in '85 thinking, man, this guy has got it. It's just a matter of just things breaking right for you.
Yeah.
And it didn't. And that's, it's the fans who got hurt as well, because I think you were.
Well, I gypped them. I gypped the fans. I really did. And that's something that I thought that I would never do, because I always held the fans in such high esteem, as you'll remember in my earlier stories about me talking about how nice and kind they always were to me. And I'd go out of my way to sign an autograph, and they'd come to your hotel room and bring you presents, food, and just very very nice. And by that time, I was just so consumed to myself. But, you know, there is a good ending on the end of this story. I mean, you know, by God's grace, I mean, I'm alive. I'm in, you know, just went to the doctor not long ago, and I have, you know, I'm broke up a little bit because of all the bumps we took through the years. But all in all, I mean, I have wonderful blood pressure. My sugar level's great. I have perfect eyesight and hearing, and can walk upright, and all of my inner organs, my liver, and everything is everything's functioning normal. As a matter of fact, my knee surgeon told me that something like my lipo count or something was like twice the normal person is why that my liver never broke down. There's something about the enzymes in my liver that is twice what the normal person, and that's why that I'd never had any problems with my liver. So I'm actually physically at 47 years old. I'm in you know, my blood pressure is 120/80. I'm in wonderful health-wise. I'm in wonderful condition.
Buddy, aside from the lack of opportunity, Flair's 60, you're 47. What keeps you from today being able to do what he does?
Well,
I know the opportunity in the business is just...
Well, I tell you what it is because a lot of people have a really, really long memory when it comes to me. Some are willing to forgive, some aren't willing to forgive. The business isn't in the shape it is anymore. I'm really not willing to go prepare in the gymnasium and get in tremendous shape. I don't have illusions of grandeur, Gary. I'm 47 years old. Those guys up there in their 20s and early 30s, you know, for me to even, I think that I would be setting myself up for failure again if I got in my mind that I can do this again. You know, I do little shows now, but it's, you know, just to hang out and have a good time. You know, I don't have any aspirations of, now I'd love to go up to Vince and be a road agent or, you know, I think that would be wonderful. I think that I got a lot to give to younger guys, you know, especially that might be going down that road or something like that, but would they listen? I didn't, you know, but I'd love that kind of an opportunity, but I think that I would like to, if Vince called me up and says, look, I'm going to give you 6 months, get in shape, I'm going to bring you up and do something with Flair, you can bet your bottom dollar, brother, that I will be in the best shape that I've been in years, and I would be ready for that. But hey, you know, Ric Flair's Ric Flair, buddy. Buddy Landell's never been Ric Flair, okay?
Well, I mean, think about it. PGA Tour Golf, they have a seniors division. Wrestling, there's such a lack of younger stars today, right. And it almost seems that maybe there should be something, you know, I guess, I don't know if this is so far out, if Flair's able to still compete, right. but that's not the direction you'd like to go in.
Well, no, as a matter of fact, I mean, I would love to do that. I mean, I would love the opportunity, but hey, you know, Vince has got to call me and, you know, got to give me a heads up, and I've got to get in shape. It's just, you know, I guess when you get older, you think, well, you know, your time's gone. Let me tell you something. Let me say this in closing, Gary.
Okay.
I would love nothing more than an opportunity for the last thing in my career, or for that matter, the last thing of my life, be that, you know what, he came back, he looked great, he was wonderful. It's Cinderella story. It's like the actual wrestler, the movie The Wrestler. My attorney saw that movie and said, brother, don't go see this movie. I said, why? He said, well, shit, it's your life, brother. But I would love the opportunity to go back in some kind of small capacity, just for everybody, the naysayers and everybody, my detractors and all the people that I hurt say, you know what, it wound up being a good story. He's going to be okay. He done well. That's why I would like the last thing for people to remember me.
Well, buddy, you have a wonderful attitude. You've been, you know, look, we call a lot of people to do programs with us. Most say yes, some say no, and you welcome the opportunity, and I really appreciate that, and I'm happy that you're doing so well and that your life has turned out good.
Yeah, I am too. You know, like I said, it's sad. It's sad that I did all that, but you know, my daughters are raised. They both are college graduates. I mean, been married 28 years. It's you know, there's a Cinderella story here.
And let's get to it in part 4. Fair enough?
Good. I love you, Gary, and I thank all the listeners for listening. And you know, email me at buddylandell@hotmail.com if anybody's got any further questions. And Vince, if you're listening, Gary's got my phone number.
You might be surprised.
I should actually give my cell phone number out over the air because I've got free incoming calls. I mean, what the hey, right?
I can't stop you, buddy. It's your show today.
Hey, it's 865-556-1085.
Hey, buddy, you might be surprised who's listening. Hey, buddy, we'll talk soon, okay?
Gary, I love you. Thank you for being so kind to me.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.